Well, I was just wondering, is it time for the commercial break now, or? Yeah, it is.
Well, I mean, there's so much stuff going on, and you're on top of it, that's for sure. I saw your last report, Rex Tillerson racially exit Washington reality TV. That's true, for sure.
Yep.
How would you, I mean, has that ever happened to you? Have you ever gotten a tweet or an email if they don't show up?
Can I decline to answer that one? I decline that one. I'm trying to think about that. I think I'll decline that one.
But he does have a way, of kind of getting people, and I know that apparently he held off letting the guy go, as I understand. So
Yeah.
he got back on his overseas trip, which was nice of him. So,
And I think that this was long time in the going. I mean, Rex clearly had a different set of priorities, or what he felt that the place of the United States within the world where we sat. And he didn't necessarily believe in America first. And, President Trump was elected, obviously, on America first, and wanted to kind of detach from some of these foreign entanglements and go at issues and bring North Korea to the table, which now he's going to, and tackle the Iranian situation, which he's doing via tweets, which is a lot cheaper than boots on the ground. So Rex Tillerson just didn't share some of those same visions, I think. And I also think, as I stated in the article as well, that Rex Tillerson was a good guy. He wasn't a Harvard guy. He went to college in Texas and, built Exxon up to a rival, one of the best, billions and billions. I mean, and he was a very good guy, but he was also a political rookie. And unfortunately, since I spent a lot of time in D.C., I can say this with absolute certainty that politics is not for the faint of heart, and that it's a dirty, dirty business. And if you get your feelings hurt easily and you can't get your way easily, then I don't think that it's for you. And I think that's also played into Rex's decision, and maybe he was fighting a little bit. And it's just, we learned today that all of these the Trump administration's put all these people forward to be appointed to office, and the Senate, Chuck Schumer, is holding them up on procedural things. And the numbers are staggering. And I think that for people who are used to, especially businessmen like Trump and Tillerson, they usually snap their fingers like, go get this done, I'll talk to you in 2 days, and it better be done or you're fired. That's not the way DC works.
Yeah, somewhere I have my actual notes here. I'm just kind of going through it, but talking about the people, who've not been confirmed.
Yeah.
Is that the right word? Confirmed?
Yeah. Yep.
I'm thinking there's like 48 in hold. Maybe it's another guess I have coming on that's got all those figures.
No, it's closer to 200 actually, and and it was 17. I guess in the last 4 administrations, the number of holds for all 4 collectively was 17, and Trump in 14 months has 150 or 200, somewhere around that ballpark, of people waiting to get confirmed, including a few people who were confirmed by unanimous vote under previous administrations. So you see that the Democrats are...
I think it was somebody's wife. Whenever she wanted to get people confirmed, it was real easy. Was that McCabe or was it Pompeo?
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
One of those.
Yeah.
Hey, time to take our break, and we're going to be right back. And I also want to ask you about Tillerson. I know he didn't support, the Senate climate work, and I think he also didn't. He was all for the Iran treaty. So we'll get deeper into it with the one and only Kimberly Dvorak, KDReport.com. Be right back.
Yeah. Well, I think that, Rex was kind of old school and more of a gentleman type person. And again, I mean, to deal with all that is Washington, D.C., you live in a little glass house, in essence, and you're dealing with multiple personalities. And for him, I just think that, he was used to the business side of things where he tells somebody to get something done and it happens. And again, it's just, I think that politics is brutal, especially in Washington, D.C., and it's not for everybody. And, I think that, again, Rex may have been on a little bit different, political spectrum than the president did. And I think that as we've seen in Iran with the protests, gaining momentum and moving forward, that it was increasingly becoming more important for the president to say, look, this is a way to get rid of regime change. And we don't have to do anything in essence. We just can quietly support them in the background. But this way, the Tillerson and others within this, administration believe that no, the Iran deal was a good deal, and we don't need to go undermining President Obama's all of his, works of, that they thought were great treaties, and they should have been treated as a treaty, and this didn't. And so I think in this case, you're looking at things a lot differently. But the Paris Climate Accord. I think that, Exxon has to deal with countries all over the world, and the way they get into these countries is, they promise they're going to build a side project for someone that's in that country, and that's how work gets done. And they do it quietly, and they move on. In Washington, D.C., it's in the limelight.
That all the problem that oil companies have with global warming, and you remember the crazy Shinasky, or whatever his name is, Attorney General up there in New York State, that wanted to take everybody that didn't believe in global warming, lock them up. Because you think about Exxon and the big companies, right?
Yeah.
And then he's believing in global warming or something. I don't know, maybe.
Well, I don't know that he necessarily believed in global warming. I think what he was doing is he was in the oil business, and he made that the best oil business in the world. And he knew that to do business in these other countries, that he had to take on a different persona. So, he was throwing money towards the climate change people, and he was, trying to make his company a little more green mindedness, I guess. So I think that you could look at it that way.
It's like, which battle do you really want to take on?
Exactly.
And don't forget the millions of dollars you've been making. Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, though, why he would just, the Iran treaty.
Yeah.
I wonder why his thinking was so different on that.
I don't know. I mean, you're seeing a lot of shakeups in the Trump, cabinet right now, and it's probably not done. And I think what you're seeing is that you're seeing the president feeling incredibly impatient. That he's like, okay, look, I told the people that this was going to get done, and it was going to get done now, and it's not getting done. Okay, so who over at state's holding this up? Well, he's going to hold whoever is at the top accountable. I think the president is becoming very impatient. I think that he's becoming a little more isolated. They're going after people close to him, family members. They took away Jared's, top security clearance. Mueller is now going after the Trump organization and asking for documents and papers of Trump organization. And, it's my understanding the Trump administration, they behind the scenes, they've been giving all the documents on Trump businesses from the very get-go. There was no subpoena required. They were doing it anyways, but they wanted to make this for show. And I think that when the president sees this stuff, he's like, I don't understand why you're doing this, because I told you I'd give you the documents. I gave you the documents, and now you're trying to make this political. So again, it comes back down to Washington, D.C. being an extraordinarily politically charged arena. And when you're a businessman, you can, have your fun and you can do your things, but at the end of the day, you hold someone accountable, you get your job done, and you do it. And when the president sees what's not getting done in Washington, D.C., he's understandably a little frustrated because he promised the American people he was going to work, and the people underneath him aren't working.
And of course, the other side is really, wow, he's done so much more than I think almost any previous president has ever had.
Yeah.
And when you think about fake news, are you ready for this? Okay, I'm going to give you the question
that's true. You know, he's a very bitter person, and he wanted his sons to himself. And watch out, Jared, your number's next.
When are they going to have an investigation on that, maybe? Huh?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just again, I think the media is there. They haven't been able to get any of the collusion part of the charges, and now they're, that the president's increasing sanctions on Russia. That story's kind of going by the sideline. They're struggling to try to find a story that's going to stick so they can go after the president, and they continue to do this every single day. And I wish that they would have done this at least half the time towards Barack Obama, but they didn't do it then. They were always like, oh, that's not news and that's not worthy. And the Democrats do a better job at protecting their guy, and they do also do a better job at sticking together as a group and voting together. And I think it'll be interesting to see this Lamb character out of Pennsylvania vote when he starts. I mean, the constituency there, they were mostly Trump voters. I think when they see that he's going to start voting with Nancy Pelosi lockstep, as she stated yesterday in her press conference, oh yeah, we've been meeting with him, he's going to vote with us. As they see that, they're going to see that they've been duped again. And again, it's obstructionism, what they're doing. But you have to remember, at the end of Barack Obama's term too, the Republicans, Mitch McConnell said his only job was to make sure that Barack Obama wasn't a 2-term president. And so the Republicans played this card as well, and now it's coming back to haunt them a bit. And I think that, it's going to be a rough year, and I think that, the president is like showing the world and showing the cabinet that, look, you're only as good as long as you're good. So if we don't think you're doing your job, I don't have any problem letting you go and shuffling the chairs around. So we'll see if this operates well.
Yeah. I was reading yesterday where I think Nancy Pelosi's aide, or she said it herself, about that the fact that Lamb was coming out on top in Pennsylvania, that took pressure off of her, because they're talking about, we got to dump her, we got to get rid of her. And it's almost like she's taking credit for that.
Yeah.
But see, it ain't over yet,
No.
because there are 100,000 plus unauthorized voters.
Yeah.
Okay, in Pennsylvania, and they're actually on the Department of Motor Vehicles there,
Yeah.
So there may be a lot of voter fraud that went on in that.
And there's no doubt that there probably was voter fraud there, but also keep in mind too that this is a special election, and whoever ends up winning the seat has to run again in November. So they're virtually there for a few months, and they got to run for re-election. So
But it looks good on your resume,
it looks good on your resume, but you're not embedded enough to where the voter is going to say, oh, you've been there forever, we're going to keep you. It's just, they're not going to be there. This person will not be, seated until this election stuff gets settled, and that could be like August, and then they're there for like 2 or 3 months, and they got to run again. So this is a very special election, which is, we always say some of the special elections are very, really weird, and this happens to be one of those.
Also, the guy, somebody was commenting, I don't know, must have been Fox, but anyway, about how it seemed like Lamb was really running almost like a Republican.
Yeah.
The things he was saying. And then, see, the really big thing is, U.S. Marine Corps, okay, veteran.
Yeah. Well, that, and also there was a story on WikiLeaks earlier this week or over the weekend where they reported that the Democrats and the intelligence world, oddly, were kind of like coordinating together and trying to get candidates placed and get them running in, districts across the country to where it would be easier for them to kind of win election and get themselves into the system. So now, if this report is true from WikiLeaks, now we're going to have intel people who are actually running for office, who obviously are going to work for the intel community, and they do this. We know that the CIA has a history of placing a lot of intel people in the journalism field, and it's a way to control the message. So, I mean, I would hate to think that that's where our country is going, that, what WikiLeaks had put out there, that, that the intelligence world was placing people in certain positions and they were funded on the Democrat side. That's scary to think that you're going to have intel people that are going to be congressional members and they're going to actually be in charge of making decisions for the country, but it's not going to be based on the constituency they serve. It's going to be based on their bosses in Washington, D.C. or wherever they might be.
Yeah. That's terrible.
Yeah.
I also saw, that where there's a job of Republicans that, just average folks say, hey, we're gonna qualify to run against Romney. And I mean, there's a lot of we don't want him. I thought I saw the figure of 40, 30 or 40.
Yeah, it seems like I guess you could say that would be anybody but Romney. Yeah. Yeah. Well, very interesting to see that.
Gina Haspel, okay. He is, for the CIA director, first female.
Yeah.
But I guess Senator Rand Paul, and he does have quite a bit of weight, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Well, again, we saw Rand Paul do this with the Democrats. He's being consistent, and he's doing this. He also does work with President Trump on a number of issues, so I'm assuming that they can kind of, sit down and iron this out in the end. But his contention was, I think, based on a false story with ProPublica, which is kind of like an ACLU type group. And they wrote a story last year, and now the Washington Post kind of glommed onto it. However, yesterday we got a retraction from the story, and they put it in the headline, and they wrote a story about how they came to the conclusion about the CIA director wannabe. And they, basically felt that they were, I think, hoodwinked and misread what the intent of the CIA was and all of this. And now they've had people since go on the record, the waterboarding. Yeah. In Thailand, yeah, she was. Yeah, the waterboarding. A lot of people are contending that she was in charge of the waterboarding program that happened in Taiwan back in 2001 and early 2002. However, she's worked mostly undercover, so a lot of her work is going to be classified. I mean, there's just no getting around it.
Did you happen to see my Facebook that I was forwarding out yesterday?
No.
On her?
Mm-mm.
Let me give you the thing here. It says, ponder this. The Democrats are going to oppose the first female director of the CIA because she was too tough on the terrorists.
Yeah. Well, I think this is, I think that we're going to see her confirmation. They're going to put Pompeo up first. They're going to get him through the system first. Then they'll go and they'll put her through. I think what Trump's doing, and I think this is a little bit of political showmanship on his behalf, he's going to put her up. The Democrats are going to be brutal on her, saying that, she did A, B, and C. The majority of her work is classified. We're never going to know about it, although we know that she was not in charge of that waterboarding. And she was, she's been reprieved of like destroying the tapes. That just is just flat out wrong. And that story now has been retracted. So you're going to see Trump like say, okay, look, you women out there in the Democrats who are saying that I'm not, I'm anti-woman. I hate women. If I hate women so much, why am I putting this one up to be the CIA director? The very first female to be the director of the CIA. So he's learning the political game a little bit here, and whether she's qualified or not, I mean, it remains to be seen. We'll see how she holds up under the scrutiny. But she is a female. She's been with the agency, served undercover, which is an extremely hard thing to do for as many years as she's done it, and she's got the support of the rank and file inside CIA, which is huge.
Well, see, there's the sexist connection that you just said you served undercover.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Undercover, not undercovers.
Okay. Now, also, I know that Rand Paul, and I'm going to ask you after the break if this is more fake news or if it's a fact, but
Yeah.
and got some comments on it. You know, it's I don't know.
Well, I think with obviously Mike Pompeo went through the nomination not that long ago, so I don't think that there's too much that he has to hide from the Senate confirmation panel. I think what you're going to see with Mike Pompeo, he's a very he's actually on the side of the Iranian people. And he doesn't want to go to war with Iran. He's actually a supporter of the protesters that are doing their, uprising without guns, and they're using social media and sheer numbers to actually take over the country and get rid of the regime. And then they want to rejoin the West. That's what Pompeo supports. And he's on the record supporting the Iranian resistance movement. That's something he wants. The Iranian resistance movement does not want U.S. boots on the ground. And the people, the collective group, the parties, the political parties, the multiple political parties who normally don't see eye to eye, are all seeing eye to eye on this. So I don't understand Rand Paul's issue with Pompeo on Iran. I mean, I don't think that we can clearly say too much about Haspel because we just don't know anything about her. She's been undercover for all these years, so we don't know. And we don't know what we don't know, I think, and maybe that's Rand Paul maybe has a little better leg on that one. But I think that when I get back to D.C. next week, I'm going to have to go over to Rand Paul's office and inform him about the Iranian resistance movement and let him know that, Pompeo's on our side and that he agrees that we want regime change with no war. And there you go. Make him watch the Periscope that's streaming live right now. That's a new waterboarding technique. Watch this.
See, I always get suspicious because somewhere I've got the list of the Republicans who got those donations, connected with the George Soros Foundation and all that stuff, And so anytime they run, to certain rhinos, I'm thinking, well, I guess you still, are getting paid off, or you still in debt. You got to make these statements. Boy, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
I don't know. So what are you're going to Washington?
Yep. Next week. Next Wednesday I'll be out there. So our next report I'll be in Washington, D.C. again. So just...
Okay, so Friday if we do it same time, same station?
There you go. Same.
Okay. All right. I don't know. She must have met somebody there, folks.
I don't think so. I met a lot of good stories. I was telling somebody the other day, Gil Gazzardi, that I hope they're putting you up in places, because you do a great job. Thank you.
With all the reporting. So,
Thank you.
Yeah. I appreciate it, Kimberly, and we'll do it again. And listeners, I want you to go to thekdreport.com and get all this latest. thekdreport.com, and you spell the last name, D-V-O-R-A-K, and you'll find her Facebook too. Kimberly Dvorak. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.